What if the reason happiness always feels temporary has nothing to do with failure, bad luck, or the wrong people, but with life itself? For centuries, human beings have believed in progress, in the dream that through reason, science, or self-improvement, we can finally build a world of peace and fulfillment. But Arthur Schopenhauer, one of the darkest yet most profound philosophers of the 19th century, shattered this illusion. He argued that life is not a story moving toward happiness, it is a cycle, endlessly repeating itself through craving, disappointment, and suffering. At the center of his philosophy is the concept of the will, a blind, unconscious force that drives all living things. The will is not noble, rational, or concerned with meaning. It does not care whether you are happy or fulfilled. It only knows how to want. It pushes animals to hunt, plants to grow, and humans to chase goal after goal, not because these lead to peace, but because desire itself must never stop. And this is why our victories feel empty, why satisfaction slips away so quickly. One desire is fulfilled, and another takes its place. Schopenhauer believed that unless we recognize this force for what it is, we will spend our entire lives mistaking movement for meaning. We will chase endlessly, confusing the noise of desire with the promise of fulfillment. His philosophy does not comfort, but it does reveal the truth. Schopenhauer begins with a claim that most people would rather not hear: what we call happiness is not real joy. It is only the temporary relief of pain. To him, life swings like a pendulum between two states, suffering and boredom. When we lack something, when we feel hunger, loneliness, or frustration, we suffer. But when those needs are temporarily satisfied, we don't achieve lasting happiness, we simply experience a short pause before the next craving begins. Think of ordinary life. You feel hungry, you eat a meal, and for a moment you feel satisfied. But soon hunger returns. You feel lonely, you talk to a friend, and the silence in your mind quiets, but only for a while. You feel stressed, you distract yourself with entertainment, but when the distraction fades, the stress returns. This cycle never ends, because the will, that blind drive inside us, is not designed to rest. It does not want peace. It only wants to want. Modern life makes this truth even more visible. Every scroll on a phone, every notification, every purchase, every chase for success follows the same rhythm: discomfort, relief, return of discomfort. And yet, we keep mistaking relief for real happiness. We believe the next job, the next relationship, or the next version of ourselves will finally bring us peace. But once we arrive, we discover that the emptiness is still there. Schopenhauer believed this is the deepest illusion of life. We do not suffer because we are unlucky, or because we made the wrong choices. We suffer because the will itself cannot be satisfied. It drives us forward endlessly, whispering that fulfillment is just one step away, while ensuring we never truly reach it. But awareness of this truth changes everything. When you begin to see that most of what you chase is not joy but only the absence of discomfort, you gain freedom. You catch the will in the act. That sudden urge to scroll, to distract yourself, to consume, you recognize it not as a real need, but as the will pulling strings, and in that recognition, a choice appears. You don't have to obey. Real strength, Schopenhauer argued, is not in feeding every craving but in resisting it. When you pause, when you stay with the discomfort instead of running from it, you stop being a puppet of the will. You realize that peace doesn't come from satisfying desire but from loosening its grip. This doesn't mean desires vanish, the will never disappears. But it means you are no longer its slave, and in those rare moments of stillness, when you stop chasing and simply exist, something deeper than pleasure emerges, a quiet joy that does not depend on relief from pain. It is not the joy of gaining, but the peace of needing less. In today's world, the word growth is everywhere. Wake up at 5 a.m., read 10 books a month, track every calorie, build multiple streams of income, stay disciplined. On the surface, all of this looks like progress. It looks like strength, ambition, and transformation. But Schopenhauer would have told us a harder truth: much of what we call self-improvement is not growth at all. It is simply desire wearing a new mask. Think carefully. Why do so many people chase self-improvement? It is rarely because they truly love who they are. More often, it begins with rejection, the quiet but painful belief that, who I am right now is not enough. We punish the body we have instead of respecting it. We chase wealth, not because it brings peace, but because we are terrified of feeling small. We work endlessly, not out of joy, but out of fear that without achievement, we are worthless. Schopenhauer saw this as another form of the will. The same restless force that makes us chase food, comfort, or entertainment simply puts on a different costume and calls it self-discipline, ambition, or productivity. But the underlying energy is the same: more, more, more. No matter how much we achieve, the will shifts the goalpost. The applause fades, the emptiness returns, and we begin chasing again. This is why burnout is celebrated as a badge of honor. Why people sacrifice health, relationships, and peace in the name of growth. But in truth, much of this is not growth, it is escape. It is the desperate attempt to outrun a feeling of inadequacy. And every time we obey the will in this way, we reinforce the lie that we are not worthy as we are, but there is another path. True growth begins not with rejection but with compassion. It asks a different question: what part of me needs kindness right now? This shift changes everything. You can exercise not to punish your body, but to care for it. You can work toward success not to prove your worth, but to express your abilities with joy. You can even pursue knowledge not to feel superior, but because curiosity itself is beautiful. The same actions, working, training, striving, can come from two different energies. One is the restless will, which never allows peace. The other is awareness and care, which recognizes that you already are enough, and growth is only an expression of that truth. Schopenhauer's warning is clear: if you keep chasing growth out of fear or self-hatred, you will never arrive. But if you turn inward with awareness and compassion, you can grow without rejecting yourself. And that kind of growth does not lead to exhaustion. It leads to peace. Few experiences feel as powerful as falling in love. The intensity, the passion, the sense that another person has completed us, it feels cosmic, fated, almost divine. But Schopenhauer stripped away the romance and revealed a brutal truth: love is not what it seems. Behind all the passion and longing is something far less poetic: biology. He argued that romantic love is one of nature's most clever illusions. The feelings we call love are not primarily about happiness or fulfillment. They are about reproduction. The will wants life to continue, and so it tricks us with obsession, desire, and the illusion of destiny. When we fall in love, it feels like a choice of the heart, but in many cases, it is our instincts pushing us toward partners who seem fit for producing strong offspring. This is why love so often brings chaos instead of peace. People return to toxic relationships again and again, convinced it must be love because the pull feels irresistible. But Schopenhauer would say it is not love, it is addiction. It is the will using us as a tool to carry life forward. And the will does not care if we are happy. It only cares that we obey. But this bleak view is also strangely liberating. Because once you understand the trick, you no longer have to be its victim. You begin to see the difference between chemistry and compatibility, between craving and true connection. You ask deeper questions: does this person bring me calm, or just drama? Do they help me grow, or only excite me? Am I choosing them consciously, or am I being pulled by something I don't fully understand? This awareness transforms love. It doesn't kill it, it makes it conscious. You can still love deeply, but now the illusion is broken. You are no longer blindly serving the will. Instead, you are choosing freely, creating love not as biology demands, but as human beings can, with awareness, clarity, and genuine care. Schopenhauer believed most people confuse the storm of desire with the depth of love. But when the storm passes, they are left with emptiness, wondering why passion turned into pain. By recognizing love for what it really is, a force designed by nature, you gain the ability to step beyond instinct. Love becomes less about survival and more about connection. And perhaps the deepest lesson here is this: real love is not about being consumed by desire. It is about seeing the other person clearly, without illusion, and choosing them anyway. That is not nature's trick, that is something higher, something only humans can achieve when they see beyond the will. From childhood, we are taught that success is the answer. Study hard, work harder, achieve more, and one day, you will finally feel complete. Society builds this promise into every step of life: the grades you earn, the career you choose, the wealth you gather. But Schopenhauer's philosophy exposes a deeper reality: success never feels like enough, because the will cannot allow it. Consider how achievement actually works. You set a goal, pour energy into reaching it, and when you finally arrive, there is a moment of triumph. But soon after, the joy fades, replaced by a new hunger. One milestone simply creates the space for the next. The promotion that once felt like the peak of your career becomes ordinary within months. The house you dreamed of feels smaller once you own it. The applause you craved becomes silent, and you wonder why the emptiness has returned. Schopenhauer would argue this is not failure, it is design. The will ensures that no matter how much you succeed, satisfaction will remain temporary. Because if you could ever feel complete, the chase would stop. And for the will, stopping is death. So it dangles fulfillment just out of reach, tricking us into endless motion. This explains why some of the most outwardly successful people, celebrities, leaders, entrepreneurs, often feel restless, even broken. From the outside, they have everything. From the inside, they feel nothing. Because the will has no finish line. But there is a way to break the spell. The secret lies in shifting perspective. Instead of chasing success as a cure for emptiness, see it as an expression of your nature. Work not because it will complete you, but because creation itself is meaningful. Strive not for applause, but for the beauty of the process. In this shift, achievement becomes lighter, less desperate, and more authentic. Schopenhauer's warning is simple: if you keep chasing success as the source of peace, you will die still chasing. But if you learn to act without needing the endless validation of the will, success no longer controls you. And only then can you taste a satisfaction deeper than achievement, the quiet peace of knowing you are already whole. Even if you have enough, it rarely feels like it. You may have food, shelter, health, and even comfort, yet one glance at someone else's life, and suddenly it feels insufficient. A friend earns more, a stranger looks better, an acquaintance travels further. And just like that, contentment collapses. Schopenhauer saw this tendency not as a flaw of modern life but as an extension of the will. The will does not only demand survival and pleasure, it demands superiority. To feel satisfied, it pushes us to measure ourselves against others, whispering, "You are only valuable if you are ahead." This is why envy burns so deeply. It is not just about wanting what others have, it is about feeling erased, as if their success makes our own invisible. Modern society amplifies this trap. Social media has become a showcase of carefully curated victories. We are not comparing ourselves to real people but to perfected illusions. And yet, the will reacts as if it is real, flooding us with the anxiety of falling behind. No matter what we achieve, there will always be someone richer, stronger, more beautiful, or more admired. Schopenhauer warned that living through comparison ensures permanent dissatisfaction. Because comparison has no end point. The ladder always extends upward, and the higher you climb, the more faces appear above you. The will ensures you will never stop looking up, never stop measuring, never stop craving, but awareness of this trap brings freedom. When you see comparison for what it is, the will trying to enslave you through envy, you can step aside. Instead of asking, "Am I better than them?" you ask, "Am I living in alignment with myself?" Instead of measuring by others' achievements, you measure by your own values, your own depth, your own journey. This shift does not erase the will. Comparison will always tempt you. But it allows you to loosen its grip. You stop chasing a moving target, and in doing so, you reclaim the present. Schopenhauer's insight is sharp: envy is not proof that others are ahead. It is proof that the will has trapped you in its game. The moment you step out of that game, you discover something radical: you already have enough, because enough was never supposed to come from the outside. Most of us live as if pleasure is the solution to suffering. We wait for the weekend, for the vacation, for the next indulgence, believing that comfort will finally silence the restlessness inside, but Schopenhauer warned, pleasure itself is not a cure. In fact, it often deepens the cycle of pain. Here's why. Every pleasure begins as a response to discomfort. Hunger leads to the pleasure of eating. Loneliness leads to the pleasure of companionship. Exhaustion leads to the pleasure of rest. But once the pleasure fades, the discomfort inevitably returns, often stronger than before. The meal makes you full, but soon you are hungry again. The relationship soothes you, but soon insecurities resurface. The entertainment distracts you, but once it ends, boredom returns, sharper than ever. Worse still, chasing pleasure creates its own suffering. Think of addiction: the more someone indulges, the weaker the pleasure becomes, and the stronger the craving grows. What once brought joy now barely satisfies, yet the will demands more. This is not limited to substances. It applies to shopping, social media, recognition, even ambition. The more you feed the will with pleasure, the more it enslaves you. Schopenhauer believed this is why humans so often feel trapped in dissatisfaction. Pleasure is not designed to last, it is designed to fade, forcing you to seek it again. The will uses pleasure as bait, keeping you running endlessly on the wheel of craving, but here lies the paradox: once you see this truth, you are no longer blinded by it. You realize pleasure is not evil, but it is also not salvation. It can be enjoyed, but only when you stop expecting it to complete you. A meal can be delicious without pretending it will erase hunger forever. A relationship can be beautiful without believing it will remove loneliness entirely. This perspective transforms life. Instead of clinging to pleasure as an escape from pain, you experience it with awareness, fully, but lightly. You enjoy, and then you let go. And in this letting go, you taste a deeper freedom, the peace of not being bound to the endless chase. Schopenhauer was not a man of empty despair. His philosophy was dark, but it was also a search for freedom. After exposing the tyranny of the will, he asked the most important question: is there a way out? His answer was both surprising and radical: the only true escape from the will comes through stillness, detachment, and the contemplation of beauty. For brief moments, in art, in music, in philosophy, or in acts of compassion, the restless drive of the will falls silent. You are no longer chasing, no longer grasping, no longer asking, what's next? You simply are. Music, for Schopenhauer, was the highest art because it speaks directly to the will without serving it. When you are absorbed in a piece of music, desire disappears. You are not hungry, jealous, or restless, you are simply listening, existing in pure awareness. In the same way, acts of compassion silence the will's selfish demands. When you feel genuine empathy, you forget yourself, even if only for a moment. That forgetting is freedom, but Schopenhauer also pointed to ascetic practices, the deliberate renunciation of desire, as the deepest path. By stepping back from constant indulgence, by refusing to obey every craving, a person can weaken the grip of the will. This doesn't mean rejecting life or joy. It means discovering that real peace comes not from feeding desire but from transcending it. The escape, then, is not in running faster or achieving more, but in pausing, in seeing through the illusion, in allowing silence to reveal itself. For most, these moments are fleeting. But even fleeting glimpses are enough to prove that freedom is possible. Schopenhauer's philosophy ends where it began, with a confrontation of reality. Life is suffering, desire is endless, and the will is relentless. Yet in the recognition of these truths lies liberation. For when you stop being deceived by the promises of the will, you step outside its game. You see clearly. And in that clarity, even in the midst of suffering, you find something the will can never give: peace.